The bandwidth for this episode of the AR-15 podcast is sponsored by the Firearms Radio Network. FirearmsRadio.tv.
Welcome to episode number 117 of the AR-15 podcast. I'm your host, Reed Snyder, and with me tonight are my co-hosts, J.W. Ramp and Anthony Hardy. This is the podcast about your favorite black rifle. This show is for you, whether you're building your first AR or you've been building ARs for years. There is something we can all do to take our black rifle to the next level. Well, and tonight we have a special guest, Chad Adams with Three Gun Nation. Chad, how are you doing tonight?
Good, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
We really appreciate you taking the time from a rigorous travel training and competition schedule to come out and give us some insights into Three Gun Nation.
Yeah, man. Straight off the range today, been swinging the hammer, getting the next Pro Series match ready. So, yeah, it's good to hang out now.
Well, hang tight with us, and we'll get right back into our main topic. But before we do that, we want to let you all know that it is Brownells who helps make this show possible. So don't forget that Brownells, with their 100% lifetime satisfaction guarantee, is there for you anytime you have a problem. Like when you can't remove the taper pins from your new barrel to slip off the front side base, and you now have to find a new barrel. So with that being said, I want to remind you that when you do have to ship that barrel back to Brownells, an awesome way to do it is through Brownells' new Edge program. They have provided a very, very interesting package of customer loyalty benefits, one of which is free shipping on all of your returns. So if I had known that back in the day, I would have saved a lot of money sending all of my mistakes back to Brownells. Anyways, so look into the Brownells Edge program. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. And with that, just remember that when you do shop for your AR-15 parts at Brownells, you can help the AR-15 podcast out by going to our website and clicking on the parts link on AR-15podcast.com. So, Chad, tell me, with all of this exciting shooting going on, how do you have time to run a business like Three Gun?
Well, I don't know if I'm running it or it's running me, you know. Three Gun took over our lives a few years ago, and we're just running with it. It's such a dynamic game, and it's so just addictive. It's just an adrenaline rush out there with guns, and in my mind, and I've seen it all. I've covered this shooting sports for a long time, and it is the best thing going, and that's why we jumped into it.
Well, let's then start off with talking about where Three Gun Nation came from. So I met your partner on the elevator at SHOT Show,
Right.
Struck up a conversation, and was able to really kind of connect with you guys and get this interview started. So why don't you tell me about yourself and your partner and your backgrounds and what brought you together to start Three Gun?
A lot of ignorance and, you know, dumb luck, right? A few adult beverages and a cocktail napkin. No, you know, Pete and I were working together. After I got out of the Marine Corps, I worked for the publications division of the NRA. I was working for American Rifleman magazine, and we, you know, NRA obviously does some TV, and I found myself in that position for NRA. And Pete was with the production company that was producing all of our TV shows. So as we're covering the shooting sports over the years, he and I, we get out on the range and see all these different disciplines. Spend a lot of time at Camp Perry. You know, went to shotgun events, and you know, most shooting sports, I'm a gun guy. I love to shoot, and most of them, unless you're really an active participant, you know, they're kind of boring. They can be for a lot of us. You know, if you got any ADD in you at all, right? And we found Three Gun and just fell in love with it, and thought to ourselves, why is it that nobody knows about this game like they should? That's the take we had on it. It seemed like a niche sport within a niche, and we thought, you know, if we could really get this out to the public and translate how fun and dynamic and fast and just it's unlike any other sport out there, really. And that was kind of the genesis of the whole thing. So we just kept talking about it, and we both come from fishing backgrounds also. I used to do some tournament bass fishing. Pete worked for an organization that ran tournament bass fishing events. And so we collectively had this weird mix of marketing and TV and shooting sports and just, a little bit of NASCAR, a little bit of bass, a little bit of FLW. And let's make a pro league out there. And started off with a TV show in 2010, and we haven't looked back since.
So how do you actually break into that sort of a scene where you say, hey, give me a show? Is it something you produce on your own for a while and then they pick it up, or how's that work?
I mean, just takes money and cameras, right?
That's it, right?
So outdoor television is interesting in that most people probably that watch it at home don't realize how it's done. And there's a couple of kind of different ways that it happens. We are a time-buy television show, meaning that my company, we buy the airtime, we put that show on the network, and we in turn then sell advertisements to our sponsors to support the show, right, to fund the production. Now those networks also have some in-house shows that are produced by their production companies. So the cost is in-house, and they turn around and sell sponsorships to support, that airtime. So it's a weird mix, You can kind of say networks sell against themselves and say, all that. But really, at the end of the day, you just got to have a pretty good idea, I think, and you've got to be able to go within your industry and sell that idea. And when we chose to do that with 3-Gun, nobody had done it before, and we've been lucky so far and had some success.
So tell me, when you began that journey, was it about you and your partner, Pete, just kind of going into boardrooms, talking to, people in the gun companies, people wherever you could find someone interested in sponsorship opportunities and saying, get on board with us? Or did you guys have to, put up the second mortgage, then do a third, sell the, first and second kids?
Right.
Kind of what's the progression from, cocktail napkin to, standing at the starting line of your first competition?
It's kind of a blend of things there, in that we had a lot of industry contacts because of what we'd already been doing. So when we decided to strike out on our own, it's kind of get the stack of business cards out, get the Rolodex out back in those days, and just shake down every tree. And we knew some good folks in the industry. And early on that first year, we had people like Brownells and FN and Federal and Loophole and Timney that saw the vision that we did, and it really we probably sold it a little easier than we should have, considering nobody had really done what we were trying to do before. We got enough funding to jump off the diving board, so we jumped. But that SHOT Show in 2009, we were running all around the convention center there screaming this idea of 3-Gun. Some people were looking at us like we're crazy. And a couple of key marketing position folks I've known through the years, they looked at me and said, you've lost your mind. But we knew what we had. We knew that there was something there, and here we are, 6 years later or whatever, and hopefully firing on all cylinders.
Now, what was the state of the sport at that point? Were there people that were doing it full time, that were actually making money from sponsors and on the road shooting, or was it kind of just a club level, hey, grab a couple guns from your safe and come out and shoot some steel?
Right. When we jumped into 3-Gun, there was kind of two, there's a lot of shades of gray in between, but there's probably two basic forms, and that was your local club match, and there were, an unknown amount of clubs across the country that were shooting 3-Gun. Not that many. And then there were a lot of major matches. I'd say at that time there were probably 6 or 7 major matches across the country that operated on their own rule set. They weren't part of it. It was called Outlaw, right? Aside from USPSA Multi-Gun Nationals, there were really no matches that had an affiliation with anybody else. So you go and shoot their match under their rules and walk prize table, and that's what
very standalone. They are
absolutely, and a lot of those, and a lot of those matches are still here, and that's really where 3-Gun comes from. We've always gave credit to back in the days, those original matches like Soldier of Fortune. 3-Gun really isn't played like it was then, but that was the genesis for it, and it came out of that Soldier of Fortune match was the one that kind of started it all, and then other matches came along over the years, and that's how we found it, through the major matches that existed, those 6 or 7 majors. And then when we jumped into it and got it on TV, So we went around to those matches and filmed them and put on shoot-offs and gave away some money. That was kind of the business plan to start out. And after a couple of years, we were like, you know what? This thing needs another level. And that's when we started the Three Gun Nation Pro Series. You had to qualify to get in. Now it became the most elite shooters in three-gun. And a crazy thing happened. All of a sudden, you started seeing more and more sponsored shooters at our matches and others all over the country. As we got it on TV, the industry started looking at three-gun and saying, wow, here's a way to market because these guys are out there. It's a great sport. And just as that got on television, more and more people just started jumping into it. So three-gun used to be a sport where you shot IPSC or IDPA and you got a lot of skills and fundamentals and a base, and for whatever reason, three-gun appealed to you and you went to it after you already had that base. After we came along, people are jumping straight into three-gun. They're seeing it on TV, and they're like, oh, yeah, I want to do that. I got this AR I just bought, right? We just had this explosion in AR sales over the last, 7, 8 years, whatever it's been. And now they've got a game that they can go play with it. And they're seeing it on TV. They're saying, wow, I think I can do that. And they're showing up at clubs to small matches to major matches across the country like never before.
So was there a moment, or has there been a moment, where you sat back and you looked at everything that was before you and figured that, okay, well, we did it. We've done what we set out to do? Or do you think in your mind that there's still this gap between where that place is and where you are today?
That's kind of a tough one. I mean, there have certainly been some milestones along the way. The very first year, we were nothing more than a TV show, right? We went to other people's matches. We filmed them. We held a shoot-off, which was really nothing more than a glorified side stage that people had to shoot well to get into. We gave away some money. They held up a big check, and we made a TV show. Well, after a couple of years, we started the Pro Series. Now we've formed a legitimate tour where these guys are going around shooting matches, and the best of the best compete all in one division. We threw out everything else. Let's see who's the best three-gunner in the world. That was a milestone. Well, the very following year, we started the Three Gun Nation Club Series. That's up to nearly 100 clubs now and 4,000 members, which 18 months ago there was neither. There wasn't a club or a member in our organization. So we went from a TV show to a pro sports league to a membership organization all in about a year and a half there. So there were a lot of milestones that were hit. And then we started the regional series. So we've got the pro level, we've got the grassroots club level, and the pro, we're turning that into more of a TV, made-for-TV event. So we wanted to go out and find people that knew how to put on really good major matches that really kind of took where this sport came from, the outlaw natural terrain, big field courses, lots of heavy shotgun, stages, that kind of thing. We're like, you know what? We're going to give our version of that to the three-gun public, and that gave us pro, regional, and club. So those are all big milestones, right? But no, I haven't had that moment yet. I don't think we've really reached the seminal moment where this company can look at it and say, we did it. Because, I mean, 20,000, 40,000, 50,000 members, that's what we want to turn Three Gun Nation into. We want this thing to be big. We think it can be, and we think out of all the shooting sports, if there's one that can, it's three-gun.
What are some of the numbers that you guys like to share with people as far as shooters that are involved in the nation versus maybe biggest prize money that you've been able to give away, things like that?
That kind of goes into what is the current state of Three Gun Nation. So you kind of formed the genesis, and tell us about now.
Our pros are the best in the world. I mean, there was this match last year that TridgeCon put on in association with the NRA where they wanted to crown the most all-around shooter in the world. I think 9 out of the top 10 guys were Three Gun Nation pros, right? Shooting outside of their discipline, shooting bullseye and shotgun and precision. There ain't no doubt about it. The Three Gun Nation pros are the best shooters in the world. As such, we've developed a decent prize for them. Three Gun Nation champion walks away with $50,000 from loophole in NRA sports. So that's a seminal moment in this game. A big check worthy of the skill set and the work that these guys have to put in to get there. So the Three Gun Nation Pro takes home $50,000, and then 2 years ago we were able to come up with a program for the ladies as well. We started the Three Gun Nation Lady Pro Series. That champion's going home with $25,000, and so far we've given away that prize twice, and Lena Michlik has won both of them. So Lena's the top 3-gunner in the country right now on the ladies' side of the house, and Daniel Horner from the AMU is our current Pro Series champion. So I'm proud of that, being able to get that money raised. That's showing that the industry's buying into what you're telling them it can be. And look, if you can catch a little green fish, which I'm all about as an old bass fisherman, but if you can convince me that that's worthy of a $500,000 check like it is in bass and FLW, actually I think there's 600. What does the skill set in 3-gun deserve to be for that champion, right? So that's we think it can go higher and higher as we can bring in more sponsors into this.
Where are most of your shooters coming from as far as backgrounds? Are there a lot of guys from squads like the AMU, or you seeing more civilian shooters?
It's absolutely a cross-section of America. There's no other way to say it.
Yeah.
A couple of the very top guys are, Daniel from the AMU, Greg Jordan shoots for Team Armalite. He is a law enforcement officer. Keith Garcia, another cop, SWAT officer out of California. But I mean, there's doctors, lawyers, construction workers, teachers, you name it, and those people play this game. So it's a real diverse group. A lot of guys that are able to have a little bit of flexible time and travel and money to play it, and it's a great cross section.
So when you're talking about kind of growing those purses, is that a function of more matches, more exposure for your sponsors, getting to kind of a critical mass where you can get enough people that will make that a reality? Or is there another mechanism that goes behind making 3-gun, the Pro Series, capable of doing that?
Our philosophy on it is everything that we can deliver to a partner, a sponsor, an advertiser, in that the Pro Series is one aspect of what we are, and that's the bigger aspect because that's the television show, right? And that's, you're in so many million homes, whatever network you're on, we're on Sportsman. But that's just one piece of the puzzle. We have the membership side of the house as well. With every club we get to join, with every member, now you're adding your ROI that you're delivering to those companies. Your footprint grows and your power grows, right? So we're up over 4,000 members, and we're trying to grow that. The regional matches, that series we want to keep growing as well. Those were major matches, big on-site marketing opportunities, big spectacles that are growing, trying to get in people. Let's say we put one on in Utah. You want that folks from all over the region there to show up and shoot and go and tend the side stages and see what our sponsors' products are, get hands-on. There's a lot of aspects to it, the magazine, online presence. So with us, our whole deal has always been, we're not just a TV show, we're not just a pro match, we're this larger association, this group that offers things for both the shooter and the company that happens to sponsor us in all these different ways.
Right.
And that's what's going to take to grow,
You think there's a realistic place where you'll have regional matches in smaller and smaller regions, like all 50 states, or do you think that it's still going to be a select few of those, but really it's the club aspect of it that kind of grows the foundation of your company?
I think the club series is probably the most important initiative that we have going forward in a lot of ways, because if you really want growth, it's that local club affiliate that can deliver that. You have to give them a reason to join you by the competition structure, the things that you offer them, but what they're giving you is those numbers. This many clubs, this many members. And I think that's the real growth for 3-Gun Nation, to become a bigger body with a bigger voice in the shooting sports, is at the club level. The regionals are interesting to me, and I think about it all the time, because a major match in 3-gun is different than a major match in a lot of other sports, in that it's fueled by the prize table. At some matches, we shoot for plaques in other sports, but at major three-gun matches, you expect to take a pretty decent prize off the table. So I would say in that form, the regionals are only limited to as many prizes as we can talk out of our sponsors to put on the table. Last year we did 4 regional matches. This year we're doing 6, and we're filling them up. The rest of the way this year we got like 220, 230 shooters in each of those 4 remaining regionals, right?
Right.
So that's an interesting deal. I think there's a lot of interest right now, specifically in certain areas of the country. The Southeast United States, for example, is just teeming with 3-gunners. More people are getting into it every day, where the upper Northeast, obviously, gun laws being what they are in some states. No, but there's 3-gunners up there. We see them. They come to our matches. So
yeah, I'm in Pittsburgh, so there's plenty of shooters in Pennsylvania.
Right, Topton up in PA is one of our matches, or one of our clubs, and then Peacemaker down in West Virginia is another, and there are more. So it's a regional thing, and that the Southeast is really hot right now. The Southwest and Texas, but Southern California, Arizona, places like that have long had storied shooting traditions as well. So I see a lot of growth potential for even the regional matches. It's just I don't think we really know where it is yet, where it's going to top out at.
So one of the things I noticed when I looked is at the club level, it's hard to find a close club, at least here in Texas. I think the closest one to me in a major metropolitan area is still 2 hours drive away. Is this something that is driven by their interest in you, or do you go to a place and say, we're underserved here, here are all of the shooting facilities, let us go talk to them all and see who's interested?
The club series is 18 months old or something like that, right? And the growth we have seen to this point has really been organic. We haven't done a whole lot. I shouldn't say it that way. There was a lot that was done to get that going, but there really haven't been membership drives and that's coming. That's going to be the next thing. But I think what we saw was we had 50 clubs join like that. And then it kind of tailed off, and then the TV show came on again, and another 20 clubs came on, right? So it's an interesting deal where we're at on club growth, and I'm pretty pleased that we're at that 100 club mark roughly right now. There are some areas of the country where we've had a lot more interest, like North Carolina has 9 clubs, and Texas has 7 or 9 or whatever it is. Texas, you're so big, man. You got to drive 2 hours to go anywhere. What are you talking about? But we have a lot of interest in Texas, actually. Houston's got a great club. Marble Falls outside of Austin, there's a great club. There's others. I don't want to leave anybody out. Yeah. But we're going to start. That's kind of phase 2 of the club series, is where we're going to get real active and try to educate and inform all the gun ranges out there, what it is we do, what we can offer, and why 3-gun can be a great sport to help grow their own club. It's not just about us. The NRA, the NSSF, they're all putting grants out there that are steering in this way, where competitive shooting and general interest shooting are great ways to bring more money into your local range. And 3-gun's just one piece of that equation.
Right. So I think this is a series of questions driven by JW. Tell me, when we're talking about these regionals and the club series, what kind of levels of competition are you seeing? Are we seeing, the undiscovered, pro guys, the elites? Are we seeing basically just a host of getting ready to learn guys?
The regionals have been very interesting in that the competitor that we're seeing at our 3-Gun Nation Regional Championships is all over the place. More so than I ever would have dreamed. If you go to, pick any one outlaw match over the last few years, you see kind of the same guys quite often, year in and year out. And my take on outlaw matches is a lot of them kind of develop a customer base that kind of comes back because that guy's the match director I like, or it's close to the house, or whatever it is. These regionals are bringing in a lot of new folks that their first major match. I'm meeting them out on the range. They're showing up with all kinds of gear. Some of it's fitting, some of it's not, and they're shooting their first major match, on the clock right alongside the best three-gun nation pros that we got, right? So it's akin to, starting off in basketball and getting to play with Michael Jordan when you walk on the range and there's Jerry Michlik, who shoots all of our regionals, right? Mm-hmm. So we get a lot of new folks out on the range. We got a lot of the best in the game that are playing this, that are planning their three-gun travel schedule around our regional events because of what they think of them. So it's really an interesting dynamic that's going on out in the regional series. And a lot of that's because of the sponsors. Our prize table is amazing. Remington Outdoor Company is the title sponsor for all the events, and the way they've done it is each one of these regionals has a different brand as the title sponsor. Our Western Regional, it was Barnes. They're going to have Remington handguns at one, Bushmaster at one, DPMS. So you see these prize tables that are real heavy with one of the rock brands, and the shooters are loving it. They're walking out there with some great gear.
What sort of innovation has been coming out of the sport? Do you see shooters kind of change their techniques over the years? What sort of things have been developed?
When we first got into three-gun, the overwhelming, most popular way to load a shotgun was weak hand one at a time, right? You'd pull those shells vertically out of a vertically stacked shell caddy off the belt and load them one at a time, weak hand being the predominant method. Then a funny thing happened in 2010 or 11, I forget which year it was. We had this, the Pan Am, international shotgun competition, practical shotgun, under IPSC rules. And the Italians came in, and the Brazilians, and they had developed some alternative loading methods. And the one that struck a chord with most folks was called the Load 2. And it's where you're grabbing two shells, I wish I had some shells with me, stacked one on top of the other, and loading two at a time, right? You can imagine holding them like this in that stroke. So the Americans got
one of that. And get two of them up in the tube.
Right, so they'd be stacked vertically in a shell carrier, grab two at a time, one on top of the other, and thumb two into the magazine tube at one time. So in the time that it would take you to load one, the old way, you're getting two in roughly the same time. So everybody just went nuts for that and started figuring out ways to incorporate that into the American three-gun game, and before you know it, now they're quad loading. You're grabbing four at a time, two stacked right next to each other, and it's 1-2. So in the time it takes to go to the belt and back to the gun, you're getting four in, where the old method, it took longer to do so, right?
You might have kind of a mess of shells in your hand, and you're trying to feed them in one at a time.
Well, and you still see that sometimes out on all the loading methods, but that has been an explosion in both gear and technique that has rapidly evolved over the last couple of seasons to the point where there's 3 or 4 major caddy makers out there, manufacturers, that are just coming out with new gear every day that just slightly positions those shells in different ways, and guys are modding their shotguns, milling out the loading port in different ways to accommodate this new stroke that they're using in the loading. So nothing has been advanced as rapidly over the last couple of seasons as shotgun loading, which is interesting because regardless of what division you play in, and there's kind of 5 recognized most commonly divisions out there, the shotgun is the one that is the equalizer in a lot of ways, unless you're shooting unlimited or open, as it's called elsewhere. But for everyone else, we're limited to what we have in the shotgun. So whether you're in our practical division or our factory division, you're starting off with 8 rounds in the tube, say, and we're putting out 40-round shotgun stages at the regional series. So that's a lot of loading, and these techniques have dramatically improved the speed and efficiency at which some of our top guys can load a shotgun. So that's been the biggest change in technique that we've seen. The other thing that I have personally been tracking is the effect of the Pro Series on the game of three-gun. And we'll talk about this year's Pro Series in more detail if you want. But over the last couple of seasons, the Bay matches that we put on with the Pro Series, probably the most technical three-gun stages in a Bay that have ever been put on. I mean, they were hard. And people would see them on TV, and that's kind of why we've changed things up, excuse me, because it really didn't translate to television. But if you talk to some of the guys that shot these stages, they were incredibly technical. You literally were shooting for a minute and never stopping. You know, we're talking 45, 55 seconds of constant moving and shooting on the move. Some of the best stages I've ever seen. And the techniques in offhand rifle, excuse me, offhand rifle, shotgun loading. I've lost my voice.
Been yelling at the range all day.
Shooting on the move and shotgun loading and offhand rifle skills at the Pro Series, the skill set has absolutely gone through the roof in the last couple of seasons. That's technique based
so guys
more than gear.
Traditionally would have been looking for a barricade or something that they could kind of stabilize against, but now they're just giving themselves a rock solid platform even when they're moving.
Guys have always shot on the move.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say in match design, there were always places where you could post up, especially in Outlaw 3-gun. But what the Pro Series did, it squished everybody together, and it made the stages were so tight and so demanding that if you posted up and weren't moving, you were dead. You were done. You were giving up time
at that point.
Absolutely. These guys figured out, they perfected shooting on the move and loading on the move and finding ways to map out stages where they were loading, shooting, they were never stopping. All the skills that they were doing, gun transitions got incredibly quick on the Pro Series where guys were dumping with one hand, picking up a gun, get straight up to the face, getting a good mount. They found a way to eliminate all wasted time in every movement. And we're seeing that even guys that go out and shoot the regionals or go shoot outlaw matches, their scores have improved drastically because of the competition on the Pro Series.
So,
do you think
what
that,
do you do?
that increase in skill level and technique bleeds over into other disciplines? I mean, are these guys taking that stuff home to law enforcement? Are they taking it home to like other sanctioned matches and other shooting sports and utilizing it there? Maybe even going back into the military, active duty deployments, and using these skill sets there?
It's absolutely going back to law enforcement and military. There's no question about it. When I got out of the Marine Corps, I specifically remember the way they were teaching a lot of rifle skills, right? And then we went into Afghanistan and Iraq, and you'd see it on TV all the time. Guys going into the houses and they're gripping the mag well. They're gripping the front of the mag well. Well, as 3-gun evolved, and what a lot of people don't know is a lot of these SOF units and all of these different types of military units, they call out the Mike Voigts and the Daniel Horners and the Rob Lathams and pistol. They get a lot of these best shooters in the world and they bring them in for classes. I mean, why not, right? If you're going to learn how to run a gun, learn it from the guys that can run a gun the best. So the longer reach out on the forend of the rifle and shotgun, the C-clamp grip, that's straight 3-gun 101, and that has really started to move back over into law enforcement military circles. A lot of our top guys on the Pro Series, the ones that aren't civilians, they're trainers. Keith Garcia trains the SWAT guys. Greg Jordan trains law enforcement officers. And then the AMU, they're real active in the action shooting sports. They often do a train-the-trainer program in the Army, and those skills go back to the units as well. So we're seeing a lot of 3-gun skills, shooting on the move, a better, longer fulcrum grip on your long guns, reversing yelling supported.
Who's an air marshal, and they've always got pistol shooters coming in and showing them how to refine things. I mean, you're not going to game things the same way necessarily. There's ways about cover, concealment that obviously are part of the game. But
it's about running the gun, right?
Yeah, I mean, so many of the basics of running the gun and being quick and reducing wasted movements and things like that
Michael
really
Voigt
apply to their day-to-day job.
Michael Voigt has taught these guys for years, and Rob Latham and some of these guys, and they can teach you more in in about 7 or 8 minutes on the range than a lot of guys in a career can learn through trainers, in years and years. So it's a great thing, and we're seeing a lot of skills going back to the guys that need it more than we do out here playing a game.
For sure.
Yep.
Do you get any pushback from guys that don't really have much experience with the sport, saying, "Oh, you're just playing the clock, and what's the application of all this?" And guys that maybe take things a little too seriously?
Yeah, it's funny. The gun world is is an interesting one. I've been in Gundam for a while. Sure, you see people that, Three Gun Nation is a professional sports league. We did things like we took all the humanoid targets out of our sport because we wanted more mainstream appeal, and we wanted to shoot circles and squares because that's going to get on TV better and ultimately have a wider reach, right? It's not going to offend people. So we had, some of the more traditional folks in the sport, you're taking out this is a martial game, and you're like, okay, yeah, I'm with you. I think like you do, but we're not going to lose the guys that love to shoot because you take out a target shape, right? So we've ran into things like that, but for the most part, I think what we're seeing is that you can't argue with skill, no matter what you want to say. Most of the guys that argue against this game or IPSC pistol or IDPA or whatever at the highest levels, the ones that really argue about it, they can't beat the guys that are winning, right? So skill kind of crushes all that in the end.
Right, and you're not professing to be the replacement for those other skill sets that guys that go down range actually have to put into play. There's no.
Now, what I always tell people that ask me is what these sports, what 3-gun specifically in my mind does, it teaches you how to run a gun really fast under duress. It's not CQB training. It's not going to teach you how to operate in a stack. It's not going to teach you how to engage targets that are shooting back at you. You got to, if you're an operator of some sort at whatever, law enforcement or military, this game doesn't teach you those things. But what it does, and I've talked to a lot of cops and military guys that play this game, and a lot of them tell me it's the most realistic adrenaline dump we can give ourselves. That adrenaline dump you get on the clock competing against others, that when your gun goes down, all those training methods kick in to figure out how to get it running back, to engage multiple targets under a stress inoculation. You can't do that quite often in a training setting as effectively as you can when you're wanting to beat your buddy. So it does give you a lot. It's certainly not tactics. It's not going to teach you the things that keep you alive probably, but it can teach you how to run a gun and run it fast and shoot accurately. And that's what a lot of these guys are doing. Hey, Fort Bragg's full of SOF guys that I can't even tell you the units they're in, but I know them, and they're playing 3-gun like you wouldn't believe. And their commanders are encouraging them to do so because it's making them better at skills they need when their life isn't on the line. So we're seeing a lot of professionals turn to this game. Yeah.
So I
wanted to connect something that you mentioned when you were talking about pulling the humanoid targets out to kind of the wider media environment that you have to operate in. How's it been lately, and is the kind of wide appeal of it as a sport, have you been able to overcome some of those obstacles that keep coming up lately in the media?
Well, we were on NBC Sports at one time, and that awful shooting occurred at Sandy Hook, and we were canceled. Us and all the other gun shows were canceled within 24 hours. And that was, year 3 of us as a business, year 4, whatever it was now, and that was we weren't expecting that, right? So we had to regather, and it was certainly a terrible tragedy, and that wasn't the decision we would have wanted to see NBC Sports make, but they did, so we had to live with it. And now we're on Sportsman's Channel, which has been great. So we've run into things like that, and hopefully you never run into that again, just for those that are affected by it way more than we ever were. But I think the sport is gaining more crossover appeal every day. Oakley just came on as the official eyewear sponsor of 3Gun Nation. That's a major company, right? That's a major coup for us to sign a company like Oakley. And I honestly feel that it's going to happen. We're going to have that moment where we get a Ford or a Chevy or a Coke or a, whatever, some big non-endemic company that's going to put the money in this that really does turn all these guys into pros, where the 10th place guys win in about 15,000, when it becomes more like a PGA or a NASCAR type deal. I honestly believe that scenario is possible. I don't know how long it's going to take us, but that's what we're fighting to do. We really want to further legitimize this as a true professional sport where they're racing on Sunday and then all of our non-endemic and endemic sponsors are selling on Monday, at the Club Series matches all around the country.
Yeah, and I think when we get in debates like this with our peers or if we're involved in the media, 3Gun Nation is one of those things that we can always point to and say, look, this is a reason why we like to have these toys. And
right,
it's hard to argue with. I mean, it's a competitive.
Yeah, we want to be the sporting purpose.
That's not putting meat on the table when that seems to be one of the only reasons that some people are able to provide.
Right. Well, we've always said that we want 3Gun to be thought of as the sporting purpose that ATF often talks about when they come out with these ridiculous studies to see what they're going to try to ban next, right?
Yep.
These initiatives that come from up high. And it's the other reason why we feel, whether you support 3Gun Nation or 3Gun in general, and hopefully you do it with us, but this is the game that everybody should support within the firearm industry because the gear we use is what everybody wants to ban. The assault rifle, black guns, semi-automatic, high-capacity magazines. Everything that everybody that's anti-gun wants to go after, we showcase in the sport of 3Gun, and we show not only are they safe, but they're a heck of a lot of fun, too, and they can be used in a real, responsible manner. So we legitimately are the sporting purpose for what most of the anti-gunners want to ban.
Yeah.
So when it comes to most sports, football, when it comes to baseball, you've got a lot of things about performance-enhancing drugs, the integrity of your officials, I guess the viability of that athlete as a person of integrity. When it comes to your sport, I mean, do you think that these are things that are ever going to rear their heads? Is it, going to be something that's going to, be a scandal, or is there something, and, I hate to kind of be mushy about it, is there a purity to it where really on that basis it's really hard to have a performance-enhancing environment, have a judge who isn't going to have integrity?
Well, this game's all about speed, and 3Gun is very heavy in requirements for athleticism. And to pontificate on those things that aren't here, if there was the kind of money where, as an athlete, if I could out-train you and get faster, bigger, stronger, and I could make more money doing it, then I think the incentive's always going to be there, because I think in those professional sports you're talking about, all the cheating you see, it's about money. It's about guys having higher performance levels, making teams, getting bigger contracts, winning, right?
Right.
That's not really in our game yet. I mean, we're much more in our infancy in that, as much as we're trying to turn this into a professional sport, as much as we already have. There's not that kind of money in it yet, I don't think. And I'd pair that with, so I think that's one part. Money's a big part. I mean, I think any game can get tainted if there's enough at stake, right? The other part of this, though, the firearm industry does attract and cultivates and produces a different kind of a citizen, I think, in a lot of ways. The MGM Junior Camp is a great example. It's one of our big partners, and they have these kids out in Idaho. They have them out on the range for a week, and they teach them a lot about life, a lot how to be a good young man or a good young lady. and then they also get to shoot a little bit, right? And all these kids write letters to all the industry companies that sponsor the event. And they're teaching these kids to be responsible for their own actions, to be accountable, and to be grateful for the opportunities that you're given. And then they teach them how to shoot and go out there and win a little bit, right? So that's the shooting sports camps. You know, I don't know how many, you know, I grew up playing football and basketball, and I don't remember a whole lot of, certainly there's great people in those sports too, but I think gun culture is such that we're more aware that we have to be good people. And I mean, it's a cross-section of America, just like any other thing. But I do think the people that really truly love a 3-gun or high power or whatever bullseye, they want to get their kids involved, and they want to teach them to be morally and ethically sound, because if they're not, it's all going to get pulled away. We do have to hold each other to a higher standard because we're running around with loaded guns. So we do need to be responsible, and I think that shows. Go out to the range, see any of the kids that are out here shooting 3-gun, and there's some outstanding young men and women.
You know, to that point, just, you know, to offer an observation of my own, you know, you go out and you play a pickup game of baseball at the Sandlot, you know, you don't start with a safety briefing. You know, you don't start with the recognition of exactly how serious what you're about to do can get if you're not paying attention. And to me, it just seems that that base level of responsibility is only put in the hands of people who have the maturity level to begin with to handle it. And I got to think, as a starting point, you're in a much different place than, you know, the guy that picks up the football and is going to go play a, you know, game of, you know, flag football or tackle in the field after school versus that. So just my 2 cents.
Well, the stats don't lie. You know, the most dangerous sport in America is cheerleading. You know, football's about number 3, and the shooting sports, whether hunting or competition shooting, they don't even make the top 3 pages. So, I mean, they are safer sports because they have to be, because, you know, we'll get our lights turned out if we don't maintain that safety.
Let's turn to some of the gear. I mean, we are the AR-15 podcast, so when a shooter's coming out, what are you going to see more often across the whole spectrum of 3-gun? Are these guys coming out with custom ARs, or are you seeing the Colt, you know, 6920s or 6820s, or the Wyndham weaponry, they're just kind of the baseline models?
I'd say the most common AR-15, and the AR-15 does reign supreme in the sport of 3-gun. There are other platforms that play, but nothing outpaces or performs the AR in this sport. So out of that, the most predominant gun brand would be a build-it-yourself. I think a lot of folks get an upper and a lower and a barrel from this place, and 3-gunners are tinkerers. They're guys that like to do it a lot themselves, and there's a lot of good quality components out there. And I think that's probably, especially at the higher levels, you see a lot of guys building their own guns, right? So that's one. But also now what we're starting to see over the last couple of seasons is several major rifle companies are marketing 3-gun built rifles, marketed specifically to play 3-gun. Armalite, for example, just came out with a 3-gun series in both 308 and 5.56, and they got it right. I mean, it's a wonderful rifle. They're doing it in a 16 and an 18-inch barrel. It's actually 14 and a quarter with a pinned comp to make it 16-inch, you know, non-tax stamp worthy, right? So the 2 different models with their own muzzle brake, adjustable gas system, good barrel, their own free-floated 4N, that Luth MB stock on it, Timney trigger. So that just came out new at SHOT Show this year and has a lot of people really excited. Bushmaster's done it. Stag has done it.
Yeah, we just had FN on a couple weeks ago, and
right?
they just brought out one very similar.
Yeah, you're seeing a lot of companies are seeing the interest in this game, and they're putting out models, you know, geared to be built out of the box, ready to go out and play 3-gun.
Now,
think those,
are they doing it right?
Yeah, that's kind of my same question. Are people actually buying into it, or they still kind of want to roll their own?
DPMS was the first, I think, to come out with its. Well, I shouldn't say that. JP Enterprise has been doing it for years, but that's more of a higher end type of a rifle than just your standard production. The first big gun company standard production, I would call it in my terms, that'd be Stag. I think was the first to come out with it, the 3G, and they sold a lot of them. As far as I can tell, and talking with their guys over the years. What I think a lot of folks were doing, so whether you get the Stag or now an FN or something like that, you got a pretty good price on a rifle that you're kind of in one of two categories. It fits you completely. All the gear that's on it is what you would want, or you're going to trade out some parts. I might like this muzzle brake a little better. I might like the Magpul stock over the Luth MB. I might prefer a Timney trigger over, a JP, whatever the scenario is. So guys will trade out some parts, but yeah, they are buying it. A lot of these guns are pretty daggone good out of the box. You're seeing good 18-inch barrels, free float tubes, usually a better trigger than a stock mil spec. So they're putting some good parts on there. They're hitting different price points. And it's just up to the individual shooter to find out what they like, develop their, the gear they prefer a little bit, and they'll trade out some parts.
I know it kind of depends on which category you're shooting in, but are a ton of guys doing those 1-to-6 powers? Are they doing magnifiers or offsets or all the above?
No, the 1-to-6 is by far and away the most dominant scope in all of the divisions that aren't limited to variable power optics. Leupold's 1-to-6 you see everywhere. It's a wonderful scope. They had a 1-to-8 that was a little expensive, but some folks bought it as well and have been running it to good results. The Swarovski has often been pretty popular with shooters. It is marketed like explicitly for the hunting crowd, but some shooters figured out that it actually had a lot of eye relief and things of that nature, and it found its way in. And now we're seeing companies like Vortex and Burris and so many others are creating or making 1-to-6s as well and marketing them towards three-gunners. Leupold's probably leading the way in the category for sure, but the 1-to-6 is very popular among the bigger divisions in three-gun.
Are you finding any of your competitors are kind of showing up to matches and saying, hey, I found this need and I've made something that I think will help all of us out. Here, do you want to try this? I mean, we interviewed Marty Daniel, who talked about utilizing the machines at his disposal to make a part because he needed it, and then he made it for his buddies, and then all of a sudden he's selling it, and then next thing you know, it's Daniel Defense. Are you seeing these kind of budding entrepreneurial shooters doing kind of any of these things?
Absolutely. The guy that jumps out to mind first is Mark Roth. He founded and operates a company called RCI, Roth Concept Innovations. Most of you probably have seen his videos and know him by the X-Rail, the first product he came out with, and that was that self-articulating, rotating magazine tube system where you can get 23 rounds in a Benelli, right? So, and that's a three-gun story. Guy's sitting on the range, he's shooting alongside Bruce Pyatt and some other great, Tony Holmes and some other great three-gunners, and they're talking about shotguns because they all hate loading them. They can't get enough rounds in their shotgun. It's always the problem of three-gun unless you're an open division, unlimited division. So he just gets to thinking and sort of like Three Gun Nation on a cocktail, and he develops this system that ultimately became the X-Rail, right? And what he learned about building aluminum tubes and followers and things of that nature to develop that X-Rail, now he's one of the leading magazine extension tube companies in the sport, and he's just started a performance shop within RCI where they're modding out Benelli M2s and Remington Versamaxes, and they're incredible. They're absolutely getting ready to blow up. He's just came out with his first couple of products, and I mean that is absolutely, completely a three-gun story, and now you've got a company with what's starting to become a diverse product line out there marketing for three-gun. And he's a heck of a guy, too. So.
Well, that's pretty darn awesome.
I just
And
checked out his
straight up-
website, and the price point is a little out of my reach, but these are some pretty sick looking shotguns.
that red Mark Roth signature Benelli M2
Mhm.
is about the most exquisite shotgun you will ever see. It is, it's incredible.
He says he calls it the works.
Yeah, it is. All right. We just had one of those on a prize table at the Southwest Regional a couple of weeks ago, and
Dang.
the winner of the match walked out of there with that very shotgun that's retailing for right around $3,000. So
Yep.
Wow.
it's anodized red. It's got every possible modification you can do to a Benelli M2 to have it 3-gun running ready, and the execution of it is absolutely perfect. So that's a 3-gun story, but he's not alone. There's, TACCOM is another company that Tim Ubel, he used to work for another company. He'd been working on all these accessories. He went out and started an accessory company that pretty much everything he makes is aimed at 3-gun, and he's one of those guys making shell caddies for loading shotguns. Yeah, I mean, Mark Roth has been one of the big innovators that I've known. I actually met him when he had nothing but a prototype out of his kitchen, right? And I've seen that company grow, and it's one of the real gear-driven companies out there that's a big player in 3-gun, and it's been fun to watch him. And it's funny, this 3-gun owes a lot to like Randy Luth, who was the founder of DPMS, right? He saw it in its infancy and got a team together, and they started going out to every match out there. So that really did a lot to help grow the game. It helped to give it some legitimacy. He wasn't the only. JP was another one, but Randy was the first big company, right? DPMS was the first big company first major gun manufacturer that really jumped into 3-gun, and that spirit's kind of carried on. Other guys have picked up the mantle. Ken Fow at FN did. They really jumped in with 3-gun right when we came along with 2 feet and pushed it in a big way. And now it's Armalite. Tommy Thacker, former 3-gun nation champion, used to shoot for Team FNH USA. He got the job as the president at Armalite. Now we got one of our own running a company. What were they thinking? Letting a 3-gunner run a company, and he's done amazing things there. In 1 year, they came out with 17 new products at Armalite this year at SHOT Show. Man, they hadn't done that in the last 20 years combined, right? And a couple of those are 3-gun driven products. So we're seeing it in a lot of different ways, from little guys out of their garage like Mark Roth emerging, and industry veterans and competition shooters like Tommy Thacker at the top of the biggest companies. So we're seeing it all across the spectrum, and it's a great, great thing. This sport is really driving the gun industry right now.
Yeah, I think it's amazing that kind of the growth that's really seemed, that groundswell that's come up underneath it, and it's just really beginning to swell the ranks. And I think obviously there's a critical mass where it's just going to blow up, and then it's going to be holding on to that Bronco until the 8 seconds are over. But
I sure hope so.
So let's kind of move on into what the future holds for you. So you said that you made some changes to the rules for the Pro Series. You want to tell us about how that's going to look this year?
Yeah, so we came out with the Pro Series, and we've done it for a couple of years. And the genesis for it was a couple of things. One, we wanted to get the best shooters that shot all these different divisions, right? We wanted to boil them all down into one common equipment group, put them head to head, and see who could emerge as the champion. So to do that the most effectively, we're like, man, we got to put these matches on ourselves. We need to develop our own match philosophy. We need to design the stages. We need to put them on the ground, and we need to control this thing to get the best product we possibly can, both for television and to make the challenge appropriate to this $50,000 prize that we'd win out there and gathered up for them. So we hired Rob Romero, veteran 3-gunner. He's literally one of the best 3-gunners in the country. He could be competing for championships on our tour, but he wanted the job. He sought us out. He's like, I see what you guys are trying to do. And he said, I don't care if I win another match the rest of my career. If I can make this happen, if I can do something to help make this happen, to make this become a real thing, a real pro tour. And I know as a pro shooter, he said, I know what it needs to be. I've seen all the other stuff out there. I know what this needs to be. So he was instrumental in helping us, Rob was, to craft what that Pro Series was going to be. And over the course of a couple of seasons, I'm telling you, we put some amazing bay stages on the ground at Tulsa at USSA. And what we found after doing that for a couple of years was that it didn't translate. Everyone that was there understood the challenge. The pros that were out there battling, that they were having to practice new skills and increase those skills at a rapid rate just to stay alive, just to not get throttled, right? It wasn't lost on them, the challenge that we were presenting, but it really didn't translate on television. So we're like, we're putting on the best matches that have ever been put on in this bay setting, and the only people that understand that are the people that come out and shoot it themselves. Even we would leave them up and let the Tulsa club, the USSA club shooters, shoot them on Sundays. And these guys that we'd see on the message boards, oh, that's just bay shooting, fast go stuff. They come out here and they get the butt handed to them. They get a real education real quick. They were timing out in some of these guys, and they're like, wow, this is incredibly technical, incredibly advanced, and it tests skills that I don't have. But it didn't translate on television, so we kind of went back to the drawing board and we're like, look, if we're really going to have this thing blow up, we need it to be a TV show that is obvious, that is still a challenge, and it really shows the speed and skill set of these guys. So we totally blew up the Pro Series. New types of stages. It's right in your face. It's fast. It's incredibly fast. But there is still some technical skill that has to be delivered on demand. Also, instead of a field of 50 competitors at every match throughout the entire season, which is basically aggregate scoring, if you think golf, it's the PGA Tour over 2 or 3 days, and we're trying to put it all into an hour television show last year. So much gets lost, right? So what we're doing now, we're taking 6 competitors and putting them into each match. It's sudden death the whole time. You either have the fastest time or you don't, all the way through the match. It's boiled down to as simple as that. We've brought some specialty targets in. They're going to see spinners. They're going to see Texas stars. They're going to see a swinging Texas star. They're going to see offhand shots at small steel out at 50 and 60 yards. We're really going to challenge them. It's going to be some of the fastest shooting you've ever seen on television, and it's all going to be done in a way that they're not used to getting, and it's your entire season is on the line every time you step into the box. This is going to be the most exciting Pro Series we've done yet. You can tell I'm jazzed up. I'm on the ground out here in Tulsa right now. Been setting stages all day. And this is going to be incredible when Daniel Horner and Keith Garcia and Greg Jordan and all these top pros get out here and let it rip with that pressure cooker of having to deliver on demand. It's going to be incredible.
Chad, I'm going to tell you, as somebody who watched the last couple of seasons on TV, and I really enjoyed them, to be completely honest. I really, really enjoyed them, and that's one of the things that got me really interested in trying out 3-gun. What you're talking about just sounds like it's really going to be over the top, and I'm really looking forward to that now. So, yeah, you've gotten me excited.
Well, I'll break it down even further. So there'll be 4 stages of fire, and all 6 competitors will go to stage 1, and they will shoot that stage. And it's going to start off with, I think we got like 12 pistol poppers on the left, then it's into shotgun, and it's an activator and a swinging Texas star, which is really going to be crazy. And then it's on to the rifle with some short stuff and then some long steel offhand, right? It's just a blistering pace. 6 competitors shoot stage 1. Only the top 3 are going to advance on to stage 2. The bottom 3 go into an eliminator. Only 1 guy will emerge to go to stage 2. The rest of them are going home. So it's an advance and move on, survive and advance. We're getting ready to have the NCAA tournament this weekend, and that's what it's like. You can't mess up. You've got one opportunity to step up to the line. Okay, you had a gun malfunction. You missed some targets. Now you go to the eliminator. You really have your last chance. You've got to deliver if you're going to stay alive in this tournament.
That's bad.
That's going to be a pressure cooker.
That's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the kind of the way that 3-gun is kind of define how it does these things, I mean, the textbook is still pretty much an open book. You haven't written it all in stone, so you guys are still at liberty to keep trying on new things, or do you think that you're slowly getting to a place where your options are limiting themselves? How do you see it, for the foreseeable future?
Well, the Pro Series, we finally morphed into a made-for-TV event. We went from just a TV show to producing the highest level of competition possible to, all right, let's put something on that is incredibly challenging, but is obvious in how it presents that challenge, right? There's no more, you got to run over here and do this, right? So we've changed all these things for TV, and I think as a company, we're always going to do what we need to do to make the best TV show possible, and that'll remain fluid. If another network or another production company or another big sponsor came to us and said, well, we can do it this way, and it's going to reach more people, that's something we're always pushing and striving to be, because television has such a large power in what it can do for the sport. On the club and regional side of things, I wouldn't say that we're fixed into any mold or anything, but I see those as what the club series is to me, and what I think it is for this company is it's that first step of access. So, look, the rules will change, equipment divisions will change. The sport kind of sets that up itself. The interests drive those ways. What I want the club series to become, and what I want to work with NRA and NSSF and other organizations, trying to reach out to the Midway USA Foundation, I want to create programs that help increase access. Kids being able to get out and to get in clinics, and they don't even have any firearms themselves. They don't even have any guns. They can come, show up, get their hand on some guns and some ammo, and receive some instruction. Grants and money available for ranges specifically earmarked for 3-gun development, not going to other disciplines that have been around for a long time, but for our game, because it is growing in popularity. So I'm not too hung up on keeping things the same or trying to steer it in any direction on what the game is. The game will do that. The equipment that's available and innovations and all those areas will drive the sport while we're running it, while on our version of it. We're going to let the sport drive that. But what we want to do is help facilitate it. We want to get more people more access to this great game.
Well, when you talk about it in those terms, let me ask you this. Is the club series a way to get the practical experience and exposure to be able to go to the regionals and be successful? And is the regional series kind of the crucible from which you're going to eventually say, these are the guys that we want to invite to the Pro Series? Or is there like a, club and regional is one, and then Pro is just whoever tries out and who's the best? I mean, kind of define that interconnectedness for me.
It was completely designed as a progression. Once we decided to do the club series and the regional series, we sat down and mapped it out and thought to ourselves, one of the coolest things about bass is that this club fisherman can win tournaments all summer long and find himself in the Bassmaster Classic. It's where he could potentially win this massive payday and all that great stuff, get on TV. So we always wanted, and the same is true in like golf. You can go shoot the qualifiers and get in the U.S. Open, right? And my thing was I always wanted that possibility to be there. So there are actually routes to the Pro Series and ultimately the 3-Gun Nation Championship through nothing but the Club Series, through the Regional Series, and then or to qualify for 3-Gun Nation Nationals, which is a new match this year at the end of the Regional Series. So everything we do has a road and a route to the Pro Series and the 3-Gun Nation Championship. Now, obviously, we try to steer people to the club first. That's where you're going to get your foundations of shooting, get around people in your area, learn some skills, try out gear. That's always the best place to go, but we're getting new shooters at regionals too. So to answer your question, yes, in philosophy it's always been club, regional, pro. We think that's the natural progression. But at 3-Gun Nation, all roads lead to the 3-Gun Nation Championship. And in fact, at this qualifier that we just ran in like Q School for golf, with our qual match in February, we had club champions that hadn't shot a regional all year end up in the Three Gun Nation Pro Series for 2015. So that's a pretty cool way that we do it, in that you can never leave your home range until it's time to go to the qualifier if you advance that far, and now you're in the Pro Series.
That's pretty awesome.
Okay.
That's amazing.
So tell me, is there a point in time where you think that you're going to basically become integrated with the traditional side of network television, or do you think that you're always going to kind of maintain that control and that independence?
I think that we have always hoped and strived to ultimately get in a position where we could attain some type of media partnership. And that could come in a lot of different forms, and it's impossible to know until it happens. But if the right network wanted to be a big driver of this initiative that we are as Three Gun Nation, we would be all over it, because I'd give up control of this to see it grow at a higher level than I could ever push it if a big network came in and wanted to drive the bus, so to speak. And that's never going to be ESPN, or anything like that. I mean, some of those networks have anti-gun policies. I mean, you can't foresee that right now, but you never know. And I think as we do grab more mainstream appeal and keep winning hearts and minds, a little bit at a time, it ranges across the country, I think there is potential for a greater presence, either, and maybe that's just in outdoor television, that Sportsman's Channel, which we're on, looks at us and says, wow, that's such a cool thing, we're going to drive it, and just get that promotion from the network. And we are talking to Sportsman's Channel about a lot of promotion this year, and they're excited about the new platform that we're doing, the new format, and I think you're going to see some of those things actually come into fruition in the future.
So tell me about the internet and the way that you're providing content. And I'll tell you, from my perspective, I don't have the channel that you're on, and so I can't view you from my home. And I'm a little older generation than Anthony here, who's only by a little bit.
Hey,
Who's all technologically driven, so he's
Right.
all about Hulu's and Netflix. And so, is there a place you can go to watch the show that's on the internet? And what else have you put up there to kind of integrate the entertainment value of what you've got going on, to let people see your shooters, know the sport, know Three Gun as Three Gun Nation?
So for television, we run on Sportsman's Channel. The new episodes will begin running June 30th, 1st of July, something like that. And then after they air there, we have an online provider partner in Carbon TV. They're doing some great things and driving a lot of traffic, and our shows have been successful there. We've also ran a second run on the Blaze, the Glenn Beck Network. They've had a real interest in our show. So there's 3 different places you'll be able to see the 2015 Pro Series: Sportsman Channel, and then second run on Carbon TV and the Blaze. So that's our television and how we deliver it, both online and on the air. Then you get to the web. 3gunnation.com is a big part of our puzzle, and we do news stories and product updates and tournament coverage and all the different things. Link to shooter bios on our pros, and then our Facebook has a lot of social media traffic as well. Our athletes are setting up athlete pages, and we're sharing a lot of videos. And the cool thing, one of the Three Gun Nation pros, Jacob Betzworth, wrote a story, 5 tips to get you ready for the new year. And he did a video for each one of those 5 tips. So we got that story running in Three Gun Nation magazine, going to all the members' homes, and then we're posting it on 3gunnation.com with a link off his athlete page and our own Facebook page where we have all those videos. So it's a lot of good synergy and cross-promotion across all of our different media channels. And all we're doing is pushing Three Gun. Here's how you get better. Here's gear for it. Here's what some of the best did, and here's what some of the new guys did. We provide coverage to our club level events, if you can believe that. We've got 100 clubs out there, and we're kind of going around each year and highlighting them in the magazine and on the website, and doing what we can to promote at the local level as well.
Well, I would say that we have thousands of listeners, and I know that many of them are they're military, active and reserve. We have law enforcement. We have a number of competitive shooters, service rifle, high power. So, a broad spectrum of very engaged shooters. If they wanted to get involved, or if they were with a range and they wanted to become a club series range, what are the two avenues that we're talking about for that interaction with Three Gun Nation?
So for the individual, you merely have to go to threegunnation.com, click memberships, and then there's, like any other thing you can join, there's navigation to follow to become a Three Gun Nation member. It's not very expensive. It gives you the right to compete at the club level, the regional level, and make it into the Pro Series if you're good enough. You get a membership magazine. Three Gun Nation magazine comes to your house. It's got product and skill set information written by Three Gun Nation pros, the guys that are out there playing at the highest level. On the club side of things, it's literally $50 to join for a club. They're going to spend more than that in targets. We're not trying to make money off the clubs. We just want them to join in. And a Three Gun Nation club has very minimum requirements compared to some other shooting disciplines that we ask of them. Everything we do at the club level is based on a classifier system, which is also done in some other disciplines. We require them to hold a certain amount of classifier stages per year to ensure that the local members have the ability to shoot those classifiers and be in the competition programs, because we give away prizes at the club level. Remington, DPMS, the Rock brands, we gave a gun away to every club that met the minimum requirements last year. I mean, where else do you hear that? What organization is giving away a club, giving away a firearm? And we gave away guns, triggers, Timney triggers. Freedom Munitions is giving away gift certificates for free ammo. We're giving away prizes at the club level. And it's not based on performance. It's based on participation. So if you go out and shoot X amount of matches, that's X amount of entries into the random draw for the prizes that we're getting for your clubs, right? So that's all about promoting participation at the local level, because that's the foundation upon what shooting sports are built upon. If we have great participation at the local level, we're all going to prosper at the top end of this thing.
So if a listener has applied for membership, and let's just say they have a convenient local club range,
right?
What's the starting point? I mean, do you literally walk on the club? I'm a Three Gun member.
Yeah.
Tell me what you need. I mean, have you guys kind of got that? So now you're a beginner, or Three Gun 101 as a resource.
Yeah, there's some information like that up on our website in some certain areas. But just to hear it from my voice, the best piece of advice is, if you know somebody that shoots those matches, or if not, then reach out to the local match director. The local match director is our contact as an organization, and they're oftentimes the best resource available in your area. They can tell you what to expect. You can ask them questions about the guns and gear that I have and how that plays into what I can expect to do at that match. And unequivocally, all of them are going to tell the new shooter, don't worry about it. Your gear does not matter. You're going to get drilled anyway. You're not winning, right? Just come on out and experience it, because the only way you can kind of figure out what you have and what you don't have, what skills you have and where you're lacking, is literally to jump in with both feet. And Three Gun can be intimidating. Even for seasoned shooters in one discipline, Three Gun can be intimidating. There's so much going on. But if you'll give it a chance and you'll jump in with both feet and kind of experience it, I mean, it gives so much back to you, because it is absolutely the most dynamic sport out there.
Are you telling me that my practice and my load, too, even though I don't have any actual caddies to go on in my belt, is not going to help me at all?
Well, it's giving you about half the equation there. You're learning how to load it, but you may not be learning how to grab it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, any
Which-
practice you can do.
yeah, maybe. Anyway, yeah.
You will run into some stages out there where those evil match directors, instead of allowing you to load out of your caddies, they'll put them in a bucket, mix them up. I mean, there's a lot of different
really?
flavors. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of different flavors and specialty stages that you'll see from the club level all the way up to the regional championships. And
Cool.
we take people out of their comfort zones. We'll do starts with empty guns and make you load them to get started, talking about shotgun,
Nice.
which that freaks everybody out. And especially far and wide, these match directors have a lot of different flavors that they bring to 3-gun, and that's a great thing.
Cool.
Well, tell me, is there anything that we haven't talked about tonight that you think is important to the sport, important for shooters to know, or just important in general for the industry?
There's a lot of we've been blessed in that in the last few years since we've really gotten into this, that the sport's exploded, and it's hard to deny that we haven't been a big part of that, right? Getting it on television, all the social media and the web and all that, and the sport was growing when we got into it, but I mean, we've been a catalyst, and we've been fortunate that it's played out that way. And there's a lot of new people, a lot of new talent, amazing shooters that just started playing it, and more so now than ever before, the formula to play this game pretty well is out there. There's DVDs, there's great articles, there's a lot of information out there now. Learning how to do your load 2, your quad load, dry firing in your basement. It can happen. You can get relatively good at this game pretty quick if you'll put in the work, And it's going to take a long time to be great, right? Like in anything in life. But with all that being said, I think that the biggest thing is to share your sport. Most of these new folks, somebody shared it with them.
Right.
Even if they saw 3-Gun Nation on TV, 9 times out of 10, they knew a buddy that was already shooting pistol or this or that, and there was a connection to some range somewhere. It's pretty intimidating for people to just cold call a range and show up without a friend being with them. So the thing that we all need to keep in mind, the thing that's going to continue this escalation in the shooting sports and the practical shooting that is so popular right now, 3-gun, specifically, you got to share your sport. You got to take a kid out there. You got to take your wife or your girlfriend. You've got to take your buddy that doesn't shoot so much, and that's going to affect your match day, right? Because you're babysitting. It's like taking your kids fishing, right? You're going to get hooked, and it's madness. But it's the best thing you can do. And I take people out, all the time, and you'll start to find that you'll get more enjoyment in seeing other folks run your guns till they're, about ready to break than you do from running them yourself sometimes. So sharing your sport is the biggest thing I can say for everyone out there.
That is awesome, and you know what? We really do appreciate you coming in onto the show and sharing with our listeners what I can only see as the next step in shooting, competitive shooting sports. So, for the sake of our listeners, where can they go on the internet to find 3-Gun Nation?
Oh, there's only one spot to go, and that's 3gunnation.com.
And then you are on the Sportsman's Channel, and your new series is going to be airing this summer, end of June, early July?
Correct.
All right. Well, Chad, it's at this point we always tell our guests that we're getting on to the mundane parts of doing this show, and we would love to have you stay with us, but we do understand it's been a long day for you, so if you would like to go ahead and hang up and say goodnight, we completely understand.
Well, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me, and yeah, I've got more stages to build in the morning, so I think I'm going to get back at it, right?
All right. Well, have a good night. Thanks again, Chad, and we will talk to you very soon.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Well, Anthony,
That was a
I
good
don't
interview.
think that we could have had a better opportunity. Technical issues aside, great interview.
Yep.
Hands down.
Definitely.
So Anthony, I've put some text in the show notes.
Yes,
I'd
sir.
like you to read that for us.
Sure, ma'am. The fine folks at Otis Technology have sent over a mountain of rifle maintenance tools and cleaning kits for the AR-15 and AR-10. We've been tasked with giving them away. Like us on Facebook or send us some feedback on Facebook to get a chance to win some of the awesome products made by Otis Technology. We'll give away an MSR complete cleaning kit in either 556 or 762 in the middle of each month up until Christmas, when we'll give away a complete Otis Technology Elite cleaning system to one lucky listener. During the alternating weeks, we'll be giving away a host of Otis tools and cleaning supplies. Well, that sounds like a good deal there, Reed.
It is. It's an awesome deal. And, you know, Otis Technology has been a company that has kind of stood behind us these last 2 years. We have always been very appreciative of their benevolence and their support of the show. And this is one way that they have decided to give back to our listeners. And I, for one, am a huge fan of their products. But I do want to stress to you guys that it is only because you participate in the show that you will have an opportunity to win one of these things. So for the foreseeable future, and we will probably change this up over the next 10 months, or I guess it's 8 months, we'll want you to participate and interact with us through Facebook. So with that, good luck to you all in the coming weeks. And Anthony, speaking of our social media, why don't you go through some of our feedback that we found on, is it Twitter? Instagram. There we go.
Yeah, guys. So our Instagram is doing really well. So you guys are interacting with us really well there, and I pulled out some of the feedback. And if you haven't had a chance to, head over to AR-15podcast.com and take a look at the show notes for this episode 117, and you'll be able to see the pictures that Reed and I are discussing here. And so Dylan H. Cave, that's at dylan.h.cave is his Instagram handle, sent us a picture of his SBR and a 12.5-inch barrel with an 11-inch CMR rail on it, and he's got a beautifully engraved lower there for the Cave Family Trust. And Reed, you want to give us a good description of this? I think this one will be right up your alley. Oh, I think Reed stepped away. I apologize, guys. Yeah, this is a wonderful little SBR that he's been building now, and it is absolutely gorgeous. Got a wonderful little red dot on top and gorgeous engraving. I know Reed was talking about some custom work that was done on this. Looks like a Centurion arms upper. It is a beautiful, beautiful rifle. Next, we've got Gun Websites. Sends us a wonderful rifle. How many parts can you identify? Now, I, being the newbie here, I'm not going to try to identify just a whole lot of those parts because, you know, I'm the newbie guy. So we'll come back to that one when Reed gets back to his chair. Reed, you want to try to identify any of those parts on that rifle there from Gun Websites? You're muted there, sir.
I said it was going to be a little hard with the size of the picture, so
yeah, make it a little bigger for now.
The size here, and I'm seeing. See, what is that? A Magpul. That's an MOE. I think that's the baseline. What's the baseline? Is that the CTR? It looks like we've got a BCM grip. I'd say that's a Voltor upper. That's an ARMS rear sight. I am seeing a host of other components, and I can't really identify them because my graphics won't show me.
Well, and you know, they didn't actually tell us everything either. I'm looking here on Instagram, and they didn't give us the full rundown.
Well, I'm seeing a BCM. I think those are BCM key mod covers. Surefire lamp. Well, I wish I knew who was doing that. Laser sight. It's like a Knights Ornament front sight. And maybe that's an aim point patrol optic. I'm
Yeah,
going to
it does look
quit.
like
I think that's about the best I can do.
That's a
I'm
heck of a
probably
lot better
half
than
wrong.
I could. Yeah.
Did I get any right?
Well, like I just was mentioning, they don't give us the actual answers. Come on, gun websites. I'll take a look back at that picture. So, post up the actual answers and give us the real deal here. So next we hear from JS Canner. Again, this is from Instagram. Thanks for the info and encouragement. Have been following a build he's been doing. Still need a bulk carrier group. Trigger this coming in this week apparently, and Griffin Armaments Compensator. He's got a pick of a really nice rifle he's putting together. Looks like that's probably an 18 or a 20-inch barrel, you think, Reed?
20-inch, I would say at least.
That's what I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And then from Wally Gator, who also does posts and reviews over at the Firearms Insider, part of the Firearms Radio Network here, did a review of the Tango Down Battle Grip and posted it over on Instagram and tagged us in there, and linked over to the review over at the Firearms Insider, so you can read his review of that Tango Down Battle Grip over at the Firearms Insider. It's a nice little review, and it's a nice little grip. So you guys take a look at that grip over in the show notes, and a link to the review is there as well.
All right.
So that concludes our feedback from Instagram. And again, guys, we'll cover all the ways you can get to us and give us feedback at the end of the show.
Well, let's take up a little bit of traditional email feedback. Looks like Austin wrote in to say he wanted to say how much I appreciate your show and how it helps me get through my long work days. Also this week you interviewed the manufacturer of the AR-AK, the ERIC, and I was curious if they have or if you have any experience with gas piston ARs heating up much quicker than DI platforms. I can't wait to hear your response, and thanks again for the show. And Austin, I've got to tell you that I am not familiar with any heating differences on the platform that, I guess, skew in the direction of the gas piston. I have seen anecdotal evidence that the DI platforms heat up much faster, but really, I don't know that I know of any instances where it's the other way around. So I think as far as that, you've probably got a good deal of comfort in the piston platform to make sure that it doesn't overheat.
Right, I've heard the same.
So Philip E. writes in, hey y'all, from the AR-15 podcast, this is Philip E. I am new to this show, but not the Firearms Radio Network. Like all the others, you have a great show. Keep up the awesome work. Hoorah. Semper Fi.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Philip. We appreciate the feedback. Al from Wellington, Ohio writes in, hi, Reed. I too am a product of the 80s prior service. I was in the Army from 83 to 85. Anyway, I am partially through the podcasts, listening to all of them, and I do love the show. It says, in one of the episodes in the teens, you were talking about bullet yaw. What we were told was the 5.56 round tumbled end over end. What made the round so devastating was it would bounce around in the body. I'm sure the subject has been beaten up in the episodes I haven't gotten to yet. Thanks for the show, Al, Wellington, Ohio. I do know that yaw dependency was the driving force behind the military's development of the 855A1.
Mm-hmm.
And, certainly I think they've addressed their concerns. It was also one of the things that I believe drove the innovations behind the Mark 318, Mark 319 projectiles, looking for a degree of barrier blindness. And of course, if you have some bullet yaw, there might be a tendency to bleed off too much of your momentum. I'm not sure if that's the right physics term, but I'm going to go with it today because I am mentally drained. But I'm going to go with it. So yeah, I do remember that yaw being critical to exacerbation of kind of wound channels, and of course you have a lot of anecdotal stories of a gunshot wound to one part of the body and a bullet resting in the far distant part after bouncing off a number of bones. But ultimately I don't have any direct knowledge, and that's probably as far as many of us are these days anyway. So thanks for writing in, and thanks for listening to the show. Of course, as you get through the podcast and find the newer episodes, please keep writing in and keep contributing. So Anthony, I think with that we had beaten another good show topic to submission, and we are approaching that witching hour where it's time for us to say goodnight. So why don't you start us on the rest of this?
Alrighty, sir. As always, guys, you can send any questions or comments to feedback@ar15podcast.com. You can also send a recorded voicemail, and we'd love to hear your lovely dulcet tones, guys. Please send them in to us using the SpeakPipe plug-in on the right-hand side of the AR-15 podcast website. You can subscribe and listen to us for free over at iTunes or on Stitcher. And please be sure to leave us a review, because we can always use those reviews to find us easier if you're searching for us. And make sure to share your pictures with us over on Instagram at AR15Podcast, and tag your pictures with us at AR15Podcast or hashtag AR15Podcast. Follow us on Google+. Just search AR15 Podcast, or find us on YouTube at AR15 Podcast over there as well. And follow us at Facebook, facebook.com/AR15 Podcast. Everything is just AR15 Podcast. Just find us. You can find us, I'm sure. You can check out all the other great podcasts on the Firearms Radio Network at firearmsradio.tv. And don't forget to use our Brownells affiliate link for all of your AR-15 parts, which is at ar15podcast.com/parts. And for everything else, use our Amazon affiliate link at firearmsradio.tv/Amazon. And that's it.
Well, with that, that's another great show. Anthony, thanks. And of course, you had to jump off and get back to, I guess, a decent night's sleep so you could wake up super early.
Well, that beauty sleep stuff or whatever, that us trolls don't worry about.
Yeah, well, he's been getting far too much beauty sleep. I think he needs to kind of toughen up a little bit. That milky, soft skin of his, he's got another big fan on the feedback on iTunes that likes his dulcet tones. So,
all right.
Very good. Guys, thanks again. We'll see you next week.
Good night.
This has been a production of the Firearms Radio Network. You can find more information at firearmsradio.tv.